Have you ever felt completely betrayed? Those feelings in your tummy when someone you trusted, a close acquaintance, betrayed your trust. Have you ever been the target of lies and cruel words spoken by people you once trusted? It is a deeply painful experience. It can leave you feeling lost, alone, and filled with a burning sense of injustice. The Bible is full of human emotion, and it does not shy away from these dark and difficult feelings. One of the most powerful and sometimes shocking examples of this is found in Psalm 109. This is not a gentle song of praise. It is a raw, desperate cry for help from a person who has been pushed to the very edge. It is a window into the heart of someone who is suffering greatly and turns to God with everything they have, holding nothing back. This psalm is often called the Psalm of David. That is a rather formal word that simply means it contains David's struggles and battles with his enemies and his outcry to God. David poured out his heart to God. As we all understand, the writer, whom we all traditionally believe to be King David, does not just ask God for help. He asks God to bring down terrible punishments upon his enemies. This can be very surprising for modern readers. We are often taught to love our enemies and to forgive those who wrong us. So, reading these fierce calls for judgment can be unsettling. But it is important to understand the context. This is not a cold-hearted wish for revenge. It is an outpouring of profound pain from someone who feels powerless against the wicked words and actions of others. Understanding Psalm 109 requires us to step into the writer's shoes. Imagine a world without a formal public justice system as we know it today. In ancient times, a person's reputation was everything. False accusations and public slander could destroy your life, your family, and your standing in the community. When the psalmist cries out to God, he is not just venting his anger. He is appealing to the highest court in the universe for help. Urgent help before his enemies destroy him and all he has. He is asking the ultimate judge to intervene where there is no other hope for justice. He is placing his case and his trust entirely in God's hands, believing that God sees the truth and will act on his behalf. So, as we explore this powerful psalm, let us approach it with an open mind. Let us listen to the voice of the psalmist, not as a vengeful man, but as a deeply wounded soul crying out in the dark. This is a prayer born of desperation and faith. It shows us that it is okay to bring our darkest feelings to God. Trust in God with all your heart. He is strong enough to handle our anger, our pain, and our cries for justice. Psalm 109 reminds us that no emotion is too messy or too intense to share with the one who created us. It is a testament to a relationship with God that is honest, real, and unflinchingly raw. The psalm begins with a direct and urgent plea. The writer, David, addresses God directly, saying, "My God, whom I praise, do not remain silent." This is the cry of someone who feels that God is distant or quiet in a time of great need. He is surrounded by enemies, and their primary weapons are not swords or spears, but words. He describes them as having wicked and deceitful mouths that they have opened against him. They speak to him with lying tongues. This is a deeply personal attack. The pain is not from a physical wound, but from the sharp sting of betrayal, lies, and hatred. David feels completely surrounded. He says, "With words of hatred they surround me. They attack me without cause." This is a key point. He feels that the attacks are completely unfair and unprovoked. He has done nothing to deserve this onslaught of negativity. This feeling of being unjustly targeted is a central theme of the psalm. Imagine being at your job or in your community and having people spread terrible rumors about you for no reason at all. It is a disorienting and maddening experience, something that puts your spirit in isolation and depression in some cases. David is living this nightmare, and his first action is to turn his face toward God and lay out the problem in plain terms. The betrayal cuts even deeper because it comes from a place where love should have been. David says, "In return for my friendship they accuse me, but I am a man of prayer." He had offered them love and friendship, but they repaid his kindness with accusations. This is the ultimate betrayal. To be attacked by a stranger is one thing, but to be attacked by someone you have shown love to is a wound that goes right to the heart. His response to this is crucial. "But I am a man of prayer." Instead of fighting back with more lies or hatred, he turns his energy toward God. Prayer becomes his refuge and his weapon. This opening section sets the stage for the entire psalm. It establishes the conflict clearly. On one side, you have David, who has tried to live in peace and friendship. On the other side, you have his enemies, who are driven by deceit and baseless hatred. They repay his good with evil and his friendship with animosity. The injustice is clear. The pain is palpable. David feels helpless against this tide of lies. He is cornered and alone, with nowhere else to turn. And so, he turns to the only one he believes can truly understand and truly act: God himself. Now we arrive at the most difficult and controversial part of the psalm. Having laid out his case, David's prayer takes a sharp and shocking turn. He stops describing what his enemies have done to him and starts telling God what he wants to happen to them. He cries out, "Appoint someone evil to oppose my enemy. Let an accuser stand at his right hand." This is the beginning of a long list of curses. He is essentially asking God to turn his enemies' own tactics against them. They have lied about him, so let an accuser stand against them. They have shown no mercy, so let them face a merciless judge. The curses grow in intensity and detail. David prays, "When he is tried, let him be found guilty, and may his prayers be counted as sin." This is a devastating request. He is asking that his enemy be completely and utterly condemned. He wants him to find no justice, no mercy, and no way out. Even his enemy's attempts to pray for help should be seen as sinful. David is asking for total destruction, not just for the actions of his enemy, but for the very core of his being. This shows the depth of David's pain. His hurt is so profound that he can only imagine a resolution where his enemy is completely removed and punished. He continues by asking that his enemy's life be cut short. May his days be few. May another take his place of leadership. This is not just a wish for his enemy to lose power or influence. It is a wish for his life to end prematurely. In the ancient world, a long life was seen as a sign of God's blessing. A short, tragic life was seen as a sign of a curse. David is asking God to publicly show that this person is on the wrong side of divine justice. He wants the world to see that this enemy's wickedness has led to his downfall. This is a harsh and visceral plea for vindication. It is vital to remember that David is speaking these words in prayer. He is not forming a mob or hiring an assassin. He is taking his rage, his hurt, and his desire for vengeance and handing them over to God. In a way, this is an act of faith. Instead of taking matters into his own hands, he is trusting God to be the ultimate judge. He is saying, God, I cannot carry this burden of hatred. I cannot enact this justice myself. I am giving it all to you. You are the only one righteous enough to handle it. This is the cry of a man who trusts God to be more just than he is. The psalmist's plea for justice does not stop with his primary enemy. In a way that can be very difficult for us to read today, the curse extends to the enemy's entire family. David prays, "May his children be fatherless and his wife a widow." This is a shocking request. He is asking for the complete devastation of his enemy's household. In the ancient world, the loss of a husband and father was a catastrophe for a family. Without a male protector and provider, the wife and children would be left destitute and vulnerable. They would likely become beggars, subject to hardship and the cruelty of others. The prayer continues with this heartbreaking image. May his children be wandering beggars. May they be driven from their ruined homes. David is painting a picture of total and complete ruin. He wants the consequences of the enemy's wickedness to be so absolute that his entire family line is affected. This reflects a common understanding in the ancient Near East, where the actions of the head of the household were seen as having consequences for the entire family, for generations. A person's sin was not just their own. It brought shame and potential disaster upon their children and their children's children. Why would David pray for such a terrible thing? It is because he sees his enemy not just as a personal foe, but as a force of pure evil. He describes this enemy as someone who remembered not to show mercy, but pursued the poor and needy and the brokenhearted to put them to death. In David's eyes, this enemy is a predator who preys on the most vulnerable people in society. Therefore, the punishment should fit the crime. Because this man showed no mercy and sought to destroy the lives of others, his own life and legacy should be completely destroyed in return. This part of the psalm forces us to confront the idea of generational consequences. While it feels unjust to our modern sensibilities, it reflects a deep-seated belief that evil has far-reaching effects. David sees his enemy's wickedness as a cancer that must be cut out completely to prevent it from spreading. He is asking God to perform a radical surgery. He is not just asking for his enemy to be stopped. He is asking for the entire source of this evil to be eradicated, so that it can no longer harm anyone. It is a brutal prayer, but it comes from a place of wanting to protect the innocent from further harm. After unleashing this torrent of curses, the focus of the psalm shifts dramatically. David turns from the fate he wishes upon his enemies to the reality of his own suffering. He paints a vivid and heartbreaking picture of his own condition. He says, "For I am poor and needy, and my heart is wounded within me." This, honestly, is the core of his pain. The attacks from his enemies have not just damaged his reputation, they have broken his spirit. He feels emotionally and spiritually impoverished, with a wound deep inside him that just will not heal. This is the authentic voice of depression and despair. He uses powerful imagery to describe his physical and emotional decline. "I fade away like an evening shadow. I am shaken off like a locust. An evening shadow has no substance and quickly disappears as darkness falls. A locust is easily brushed aside." This is, how David feels: insignificant, fading, and easily dismissed. He feels his life force draining away from him. The constant stress and sorrow are taking a physical toll. He is wasting away, losing his strength and his hold on life itself. The weight of the hatred directed at him is just crushing him. The physical symptoms of his suffering are described in stark detail. My knees give way from fasting. My body is thin and gaunt. In his distress, David has been fasting, a common practice of deep mourning or earnest prayer. But this has left him physically weak, his body starved and his knees unable to support him. He has become a shell of his former self. This is not just a spiritual struggle, it is a physical ordeal. His enemy's words have manifested as a sickness that is consuming his body, leaving him frail and without strength. It is, honestly, a complete and total assault on his entire being. To make matters worse, his suffering has become a public spectacle. He laments, "I am an object of scorn to my accusers. When they see me, they shake their heads in derision." His pain is not private. His enemies see his weakened state, and it brings them joy. They mock him, shaking their heads as if to say, "Look at him now. He is finished." This is the ultimate humiliation. His suffering has become their entertainment. This public shaming adds a layer of deep insult to his already profound injury. He is not only in pain, but he is also alone and ridiculed in his suffering. Having fully described both the wickedness of my enemies and the depths of my own suffering, I make a crucial turn. My prayer pivots from rage and despair toward a direct and heartfelt plea for divine intervention. I cry out, "Help me, Lord my God. Save me according to your unfailing love." This, right here, is the turning point of the entire psalm. I throw myself completely on the mercy of God. I'm not demanding help based on my own righteousness, but instead, I'm appealing to God's character. I'm asking to be saved not because I deserve it, but because God's love is, well, unfailing. This plea is for more than just my personal rescue. I want my salvation to be a public statement. I ask God to act, so they will know that this is your hand, that you, Lord, have done it. I want my deliverance to be so clear and so miraculous that everyone, especially my enemies, will have no choice but to recognize that God is on my side. I want my restoration to be a testimony to God's power and justice. This wouldn't just save me, but would also vindicate God's name and prove that He really does care for the poor and needy. Then I draw a stark contrast between the actions of my enemies and the actions of God. I say, "While they curse, you will bless." This is a powerful statement of faith. I acknowledge the curses my enemies are throwing at me, but I trust that God's blessing is infinitely more powerful. I believe that God can take the very worst that people can do and turn it into something good. I imagine my enemies being put to shame when they see me, their victim, being blessed and raised up by God. Their plans will come to nothing, while God's plan for me will succeed. I continue this theme of reversal, saying, "May my accusers be clothed with disgrace and wrapped in shame as in a cloak." I'm asking that the very shame they tried to put on me would instead come back to cover them. Just as a person wears a cloak, I want my enemies to be completely enveloped by their own disgrace. But as God's suffering servant, I will rejoice. This is the great reversal I'm praying for. I'm asking God to turn the entire situation upside down, to bring low the proud and to lift up the humble. It's a plea for a world set right by the hand of God. In the final section of the psalm, the tone shifts once more. The desperate pleas and the angry curses fade away, and what remains is a powerful declaration of faith and praise. It's as if, by pouring out all my pain and anger before God, I've found a new sense of peace and assurance. I conclude with a promise. With my mouth I will greatly extol the Lord. In the great assembly I will praise Him. I'm committing myself to public worship. I'm saying that when God delivers me, I won't keep quiet about it. I'll tell everyone what God has done. This is, honestly, a testament to the power of honest prayer. By being completely truthful with God about my feelings, even the ugly ones, I've cleared the way for faith to re-emerge. I've moved through the stages of grief and anger and have arrived at a place of trust. Now I'm looking forward to the future, anticipating God's salvation. I'm so confident that God will act on my behalf that I'm already planning the celebration. This shows that my faith isn't dependent on my circumstances. Even in the midst of my suffering, I can look ahead and imagine a time of praise. The reason for this praise is found in the very last verse, which honestly provides a beautiful summary of God's character. I declare, for he stands at the right hand of the needy to save their lives from those who would condemn them. This is the ultimate truth that has sustained me through my ordeal. I started the psalm by asking that an accuser stand at my enemy's right hand. Now I declare that God himself stands at the right hand of the needy. The right hand was the place of the advocate, the defender in a court of law. I'm confident that I have the ultimate defender on my side. This final verse transforms the entire psalm. It reveals that even in my darkest moments, I never truly lost my faith. I knew who God was. I knew that God was a defender of the weak, a protector of the vulnerable, and a righteous judge. My angry prayer wasn't a sign of disbelief. It was a cry to the very God I believed in, asking him to act in accordance with his character. I was reminding God and myself of the divine promise to stand with those who are in need. This final declaration is a powerful statement of trust in the goodness and justice of God, even when the world seems dark and unfair. The journey through this psalm is, honestly, like walking through a storm. It begins with the winds of false accusation, moves into the thundering rage of curses, and pours down the cold rain of personal suffering. But it doesn't end there. The final verses are like the first rays of sun breaking through the clouds. I make a conscious choice to move from a place of cursing to a place of praise. I say, with my mouth I will greatly extol the Lord. This is a decision. I'm choosing to focus not on the power of my enemies, but on the power of my God. I'm choosing to fill my mouth with praise instead of bitterness. This reversal is, honestly, the key to understanding the Psalm's message for us today. Life will present us with situations that feel deeply unfair. We'll encounter people who hurt us, betray us, or speak falsely about us. We'll feel the sting of injustice. The psalm gives us permission to feel the anger and the pain that come with these experiences. It shows us that it's okay to cry out to God and be brutally honest about our desire for justice. We don't have to pretend that we're not hurt or that we don't want the wrongs to be made right. God is big enough to handle our raw emotions. However, the psalm also shows us that we're not meant to stay in that place of anger. The act of giving our pain to God is what allows us to move past it. When I hand over the role of judge and avenger to God, I free myself from the crushing weight of my own hatred. I can let go of the need to see my enemies punished myself, because I trust that God will handle it justly. This act of surrender is what opens the door for my own heart to begin healing. It allows me to shift my focus from my enemies to my God. The final promise to praise God in the great assembly is significant. It shows a move from isolation to community. My pain had made me an outcast, mocked and alone. But my faith in God's deliverance connects me back to the community of believers. I look forward to standing with others and telling the story of my salvation. This is the ultimate reversal. The curses of my enemies lead to public shame, but God's blessing leads to public praise and restoration. It's a powerful reminder that while human cruelty can isolate us, faith in God can restore us to a place of belonging and joy. So, what can we in the 21st century learn from this ancient and sometimes harsh prayer? The first and most important lesson is the value of complete honesty in our relationship with God. We often feel like we need to clean ourselves up before we come to God. We hide our anger, our jealousy, and our desires for revenge, thinking they're not spiritual enough. Psalm 109 shatters that idea. It teaches us that God wants all of us, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He invites us to pour out our hearts to Him without censorship. It's in this raw honesty that true relationship and healing can begin. Secondly, Psalm 109 teaches us how to handle the desire for justice. When we're wronged, it's natural to want to see the person who hurt us pay for what they've done. This psalm shows us a way to process that desire without letting it consume us. Instead of plotting revenge ourselves, we're encouraged to hand the case over to God, the only truly righteous judge. By entrusting vengeance to Him, we're freed from the burden of carrying hatred in our own hearts. It allows us to desire justice without becoming unjust ourselves. This is a profound spiritual discipline that protects our own souls from the poison of bitterness. Furthermore, the psalm connects deeply with our modern lives, which are, honestly, often lived online. Today, words are weapons used with alarming frequency. People face public shaming, false accusations, and relentless criticism on social media. The feeling of being attacked by lying tongues is an all too common experience. Psalm 109 gives a voice to those who feel crushed by online mobs and cyberbullying. It reminds them that they're not alone in their suffering and that there's a higher court to appeal to. It validates their pain and points them toward a God who defends the needy against their accusers. Ultimately, the enduring lesson of Psalm 109 is one of profound trust. The psalmist cries out from a place of deep darkness, yet his prayer is anchored in the belief that God is a God of love, mercy, and justice. He believes that God hears the cries of the oppressed and that He will act. The psalm ends not with a curse, but with a promise of praise. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how dark our situation seems, no matter how deeply we've been wounded, we can bring our pain to God. And in doing so, we can trust that He will stand at our right hand, ready to save us and turn our deepest sorrow into our greatest song. Please subscribe, like, and share.